Let's start with too much, not enough, Sandra, because this is the first time we're doing this segment. And our producer, Mark, pitched this to us based on a tweet that you put out there. And shout out to Mark because he is so creative. He comes up with amazing ideas. And you and I are always like, let's try them. Let's do it. Let's go for it. So this is our too much, not enough segment where we choose something to highlight in the NWSL that is too much. They need to hold back a little bit. And also something that's not enough. We need more of. But this initially stemmed from your tweet, Sandra. So I'll let you go first. And let me know whether it's about the tweet or you're too much in the NWSL. What is too much?
Look, we're gonna have fun with this. I love shout out to Mark because sometimes you just tweet through it. Sometimes you just post. Sometimes you just go on social media and you just post through it. And the Wrigley Field game was a success in a number of ways. And I feel like we've chatted about that across our A3 episodes since the record was broken on Saturday. But something that I really like that I'm glad we're bringing onto this show a little bit. You asked me the other day about the actual soccer that we saw on the pitch, and that we still got to talk about that too. This was all great that happened. It was a very special, unique one-off, but there was still a game of soccer that was played. And what did we see and how did it look? And honestly, like while I was there were some stats that stuck out. We were like, hold on a second, like what's going on here? 11 first half corners for Bay FC. Chicago looking at moments struggling, to kind of retain the ball, turning it over. Honestly, like it was tough. It was a tough first half, I'll say, at least to be politely for the Red Stars. And you just post through it, and so it got me thinking. I said, is it, there's not enough right now, I think, for Chicago. And I think everything that we've heard from them kind of venturing into this first season under new ownership has been about preaching patience and understanding, giving that there's a little bit of grace, that they want to, kind of really steer this ship correctly and not too quickly. So I kind of just posted out there that I understand patience and getting to build things. But I think at this point, when we're about the halfway point of this first year with the new ownership, there are certain things that they do know. So this Wrigley Field game also gave them some of those metrics. They know that they've got a lot of support for women's soccer in the city of Chicago. How are they going to spin that and kind of move that forward and making sure that game day experiences are always pretty elevated for the players and the fans themselves. But the other thing that they also know is they know how long they have Mel Swanson for. This was one of the stories of the offseason, Lisa, that we said they know we're going to get this player for 5 years to 2028.
It was a long time.
It was a big deal because it was a new 5-year deal, something that hadn't happened before for players in NWSL. So massive stuff. So again, I get the patience, but you know how long you have Swanson. And what we saw on the pitch that night was a lot of maybe some of her frustration. She was begging at moments, a lot of moments and stretches of the game for the speed of play to kind of escalate. And it just didn't increase over time. And it did eventually. She was making overlapping runs and teammates weren't finding her. So that's tough, and I think it's a credit to the players because they were honest with kind of that environment. Penelope Hawking, the Ricky Anderson, saying in the postgame, like they've never played in front of a massive crowd like that. There are things to get adjusted to. So there's a lot of young players on this team that I know a lot of folks are excited about, including the franchise. But there's going to be a moment, I think, where that front office has to tell themselves, we're going to have to continue to build with these young faces, but we also really have to continue to build around Mallory Swanson because you've got her for a certain amount of time. So for me, it eventually is going to get to this point where it's not enough, and they're going to have to make some moves. For a long time, this franchise was one that had I think one of the top 4 midfields in the league. Yeah. And I think it's an area of the pitch that you and myself and others on Attacking Third have been talking about for quite some time. So I don't know if it's fun for right now, but eventually it's going to be not enough.
I mean, I would argue that it's not that fun right now for them, right?
I think in the opening 10 weeks, they've kind of overachieved a little bit for some folks.
Okay, yeah. This is true. I would give them that. But in terms of like playing fun soccer and like looking like they're having fun out there, it feels like they are just like not on the same page.
And yeah, a 3-game losing streak feels bad.
Yeah, it feels a little bad. And there are moments of frustration where you can watch Mallory Swanson and see her face be like, oh no, like it wasn't supposed to go like that. Now hats off to her and credit to her because she never lets that frustration get the best of her in these games. And she does more work off the ball then to make sure that when she does get the ball and when they are on the attack with the Red Stars, that they can go forward and continue to move. But yeah, it's just, it felt like there's a piece missing, and you're exactly right. It is not going to be enough for this Red Stars team moving forward. They're going to have to put some other stronger pieces underneath of Swanson to help lift her up, because you can't just rely on her. And they haven't, right? There's been scoring by the lots, but okay, I really like that shout for Mallory Swanson. That was your not enough.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do my not enough now, and then we'll go too much. Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. This is new, so we're just like rolling with the punches.
2-1.
Okay, so my not enough in the NWSL is celebrations, goal celebrations. Scoring goals is so hard. It is hard to do. There are some teams that make it look easy, and there are players that make it look easy, but it is not easy. It is hard to score goals. And when they score goals, they should celebrate. They need to go crazy. And it doesn't have to be a very planned and choreographed dirty dancing lift. Shout out Kansas City with Haley Mason, Lola Bonta. That's what inspired this segment for me. It doesn't have to be that rehearsed, but I want something. Like, I don't just want the players to like run and hug each other. Like, go to this supporters section, yell in front of them, like do something, show a little personality and creativity, and celebrate the goal scoring, because it's freaking hard. It's hard to do.
100%. No, I'm with you. I would almost argue, Lisa, that like I feel like that's almost something that we've chatted about before on the show. We're just like, we want to see a little bit more, like what's going on. It can't just be Kansas City lifting all tides in a number of ways, right? It's like they're saying, oh, we got
I'm even going to put Lola Bonta there. She is the one that puts the team on her back to make sure they celebrate. It is all Bonta.
As soon as she converted that penalty, she was pointing like, here's our time. Let's do this.
And they scored 5 goals, and I think they mainly celebrated on 1. Like, it doesn't have to go viral, right? It doesn't have to go viral every week. It doesn't have to be something that everyone is retweeting on Twitter, but you just have to start celebrating excitedly. Even like Morgan Weaver, like going absolutely crazy and screaming her head off. Like, I'll take that.
I love I think look, I love a good screaming in your teammate's face, like you're putting feeling behind it. I would even say in Bay FC we got a home run like celebration during that Wrigley game. Like, I appreciate it. It's like you have enough here where you're like in your mind when you're like, okay, here's the vibe. What can I do? How can I like celebrate something? You know,
a former player, right, who never scored goals as a defender, you think about that all the time. When I'm watching games, I'm like, oh, that's a cool celebration. I want to take that one. Oh, that's clever. Yeah, we're at a baseball stadium. Let's hit the grand slam out of the park. Like, you constantly think about that. So now we just got to get down to the execution. So that's my not enough right now.
I like that one. I would even also argue that, like, I don't know, maybe that's a sign of players who aren't in their head too much, because maybe that comes naturally to them. It's like maybe you're overthinking the game too much to where you're forgetting the fun part of it to do some of the celebrations. So I'm with you. Let's get some more of those.
Cool. More celebrations. All right. What is there the other side? Too much. What is your too much in the NWSL?
You know, this is funny that we're going this route because we're just talking about celebrations and we're like, let loose and be silly. And I'm over here ready to be like, actually, when silliness goes wrong, maybe I think we got to talk about Sophia Smith coming out of this weekend and what we saw on the sidelines. Sometimes you really are doing too much. And I think there's a little bit of controversy around the second yellow. Now there's an angle of it where it's saying like, oh, maybe the ball scooted under and she really was trying to retrieve the ball from under the bench. And then folks are like, but she's smiling and laughing and he and ha and folks are like, well, she, that's earned. If you're going to do that on the sideline, you're going to get that call. But I think at the end of the day, it's just too much. You're doing too much. And because you were doing too much, now there's all of these other circumstances and consequences around it. So it's caught headlines. Folks are talking about it. We're talking about it today. And she's going to miss the next game for the Thorns. And that sucks.
That sucks. Exactly right. So Sophia Smith, forward for the Portland Thorns in the Thorns home match against North Carolina Courage last weekend. She picked up a yellow in the match. Rob Gale subs her out ultimately. So Smith is on the bench. It is a Portland throw-in. The ball rolls over to her. And it appears, I have to maybe talk in like legal terms right now. Allegedly, it appears she crawls from the bench to the ground, grabs the ball from the throw-in, and pushes it behind her under the bench. So it's not easily accessible by the players. Now, in the laws of the game, Sandra, delay of the game, purposeful delay of the game is an immediate yellow card. It doesn't matter if you're on the bench, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you're a training staff, it doesn't matter if you're injured and you're not even like supposed to be there, but you're on the team. It is a yellow card. So the fact that that was Sophia's second yellow card means that she got a red, and because of that, she is now out for Portland Thorns' next match against Seattle Reign, the Cascadia rivalry.
Ugh,
It is immaturity at its core,
hate to
what
see it.
Sophia Smith did. She knew she was on a yellow. Like, she's been around. She's not a rookie. It's not a first-year professional. She knows what she's doing. And despite the smirk on her face, trying to be silly, there are a lot of people making the argument that, oh, it was Portland's throw-in. You can't delay the game. Yes, you can. That's exactly when you can delay the game, when it's your throw-in.
Ugh,
Um,
man,
it
tough.
was deserved yellow. It's the laws of the game. And now she's out.
I just want to look. I just want to shout out some of the folks who are joining us live, because I don't always get a chance to take a look at these comments, but I happen to see some folks are in agreement with us here. They're saying, "Look, Soph Smith, you're doing too much. You were doing too much over the weekend."
You doing way too much. I mean, I would be very upset if I was her teammates, her coach, Rob Gale, if I was Emma Hayes watching her do this ahead of an Olympics. Like, to me, that is just it. It can't fly. You have to be better in those moments, and you have to be smarter. Yeah, Bridget Shearer saying Smith being out next team is going to mess with so many people's fantasy teams.
That's cracking me up, Bridget. Awesome. Oh my
That is
goodness.
hilarious.
It's true though. I mean, look, it's a big rivalry game. You don't That's not one you want to be out for, and that's one
No,
she's gonna miss
you
now.
have to be smarter. You have to be smarter in those moments. And it's also, this is the last thing I'll say about it. Portland wasn't winning 5-0.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like they were up only by a goal. Like that,
Yeah.
there's just too much at stake in that game to put your team and the win and the 3 points on the line by doing something silly like that. I'm just
Hey,
saying.
I started this with doing too much, so I'm not gonna
I'm
I'm
just
not
saying.
gonna
All right,
disagree.
so that's your too much. I like that one. When we first started this conversation, people in our chat are dropping their ideas for what is not enough and what is too much.
Okay.
So I'm same with a lot of people joining us live on YouTube right now. Too much in the NWSL. Stoppage time. Too
Oh,
much
yeah.
stoppage time. They average 15 and a half minutes
Yeah.
added on per game. Every single match, 15 minutes. That is a
Oh,
whole
that's
extra
terrible.
like game
It hasn't
essentially.
gotten better. It hasn't gotten better. Like,
Has
you and I did
not
a
better.
segment just about that, and here we are, like, a few weeks later,
It
like,
hasn't gotten
still
better.
talking about
There
it.
was 15 minutes added to the end of Kansas City and their win this weekend. Mind you, Sandra, the score was 5-2 in the 67th minute. And yet when we reach the 90th minute, they add on 15 minutes of stoppage time for Kansas City's match. That's insane. That is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
It's not getting better, folks.
It
It
is.
increased when we did our segment about it a few weeks ago. I think it was just at like 15 minutes, and now it's like 15 and a half. So it's
Yes.
getting worse, actually. It's quite bad.
Getting worse. A shout out to pro referees though, and the NWSL, because they do these meetings with broadcasters that I am very privileged and happy to be on, where we get to ask questions of pro, which is the referee organization
Yeah.
that works in the NWSL, about calls that are made and the differences between VAR and this and this. And they gave a great explanation as to why there is so much stoppage time at the end of matches. And one of the things that they talked about was that in years past, really why it's different this year is in years past, referees have just given an estimate amount of time and said, okay, that celebration, because right, they give a 1 minute after a goal is scored automatically. So you can celebrate, so you can do anything. But every time a player goes down or a goal celebration lasts longer than a minute, they are clocking that time.
Yeah.
The fourth official is doing that. And so the time added on at the end of games is like accurately depicted because of the fact that they're actually keeping score and keeping time to figure out how much time should be added. So it's way more accurate than it's ever been before, which maybe leads to like there's a lot of time wasting in games or something like that. I don't really know. There's a lot to break down there. But I liked this segment. Too much, not enough in the NWSL. If you have ideas on too much, not enough in the NWSL, let us know. Leave us a comment with your too much or not enough.